Listen, we all have false beliefs. The question is, are you willing to admit it and to do the work to remove that false belief and replace it with truth?
Welcome to the podcast where mental health is at the core of what we focus on. We strive to develop people like you to maximize who you are and what you've been called to do by sharing tools and resources for better brain health. And now here's your host, Juan Garcia.
Welcome back to the podcast, Mind Yours, where we focus on mental health and peak performance. We are talking about false beliefs. If you're new to the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. I guarantee you that you have selected a good podcast to listen to and to view due to the issues that we face in mental health. I think it's important that we focus on these topics to help us in performance, to help us in our identity and how we handle ourselves in life. And so, thank you so much. If you would please subscribe and hit that like button, make a comment, share it with all those friends of yours and family members, co-workers, so that we are all being informed and receiving the resources that we all need to how to handle these issues, specifically in this series, False Beliefs. For those of you that have been following us, thank you so much. Remember, we started the series last episode where we kind of gave an introduction about false beliefs. And today, I want to add on to the series and focus more on the structure. How do we break down what a false belief looks like? How do we break down what a belief looks like? And how is it that we're going to deal with these false beliefs? How are we going to, number one, identify them? Number two, remove them. And number three, replace them with truth. Remember, if you have not seen the first episode of this series, you have to do that because it's important for the continuity and for understanding of the flow of how we're going to discuss this topic. So, also, I want to remind you, if you have not purchased my latest book, I Said to Myself, False Beliefs That Won't Let Me Breathe. And the word breathe, I use it as an acrostic or an acronym, which stands for different things that I urge you to do, I challenge you to do to replace those false beliefs. You can get it wherever you get your books. I guarantee that it will help you if you are struggling with false beliefs, which I think we all do. So get that book. And above all, please leave a review in the review section, whether you buy it through Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Let us know what your thoughts are regarding the book. That's going to help us not only get better in the material that we put out there, but also it'll get the traffic going, because the more reviews, the more the book randomly pops up in people's feeds. So we appreciate your help and support in that. Now, let's talk about false beliefs, and let's talk about this structure that I want to lay out, because I think it's important that we understand. We can talk about false beliefs all we want, but if we don't have a strategy as to identifying it, removing it, and replacing it, then we're really not doing anything. So what I want to do today is, in this episode, I want to really break down the structure of how the belief system actually works. And what I will say is that there are 5 elements that I want to share that is the driving force, if you will, of our belief system. When we believe something, we are convicted of that. We put energy into that belief. Now, just because we believe in it doesn't mean that it's healthy, and it doesn't mean that it's true. It's a belief. It's something that we have accepted for us to live by. And what I will say also is that a lot of our beliefs live in our unconscious world or life or mind. There's stuff that we believe that are just there and that we just run with it. We don't even process. We don't even think about it. It's second nature to us because we believe it. It's connected to us. That's why it's important to know what you believe, because it becomes second nature. And so you just live your life accordingly. If that belief or those beliefs are false, then we live our lives accordingly, but there are lives that are unhealthy because our belief systems directly affect our thinking, our emotional response, and our behavior. And you know our behavior gets us in trouble. That's why I really want to dig deep into this topic, because a lot of the behavior that we see that gets us in trouble is just behavior. But when you really look at it, it's actually a belief that we have been carrying, that we've been living about our lives with, that is not even true and unhealthy. So it affects our mind, it affects our thought process, it affects our emotional responses, therefore affecting our behavior, and that's what gets us in trouble. So a lot of times you have people that are struggling with a specific behavior, whether it's an addiction to something, whether it's violence, whether it's just irrational behavior, unhealthy behavior, whether it's eating things that are not healthy, whether it's just something, a vice that they feel embarrassed about or they just don't like. All of these things are byproducts of thought process and of emotional response. And at the core of that is a belief system. And here's how we're going to break it down. Everything that we do is driven by these 5 elements that is composing our belief system. Okay? And the 5 elements are a belief. So whatever belief you have, good, bad, indifferent, that's number 1. Number 2 is your core beliefs. Every belief has core beliefs within it. Okay? Every belief has core beliefs within it, and we'll break that down, what that looks like. Thirdly is your emotions. So every belief, when you break down the core beliefs within it, also has emotions to each core belief, and we'll show that what that looks like as we go along. Then after you have an emotion attached to it, then you attach faith. And faith, it's not specifically talking about religious faith or faith in a religion or a God, etc. It's what you apply in terms of conviction or skepticism or doubt. That's faith. That's the faith that we apply to what we believe. And then fifthly is the ability to add either character or what we call a persona. So fifth would be persona, identity. Let's use the word identity. Identity would be a good word to kind of include persona, character, and things of that nature. Now, what I want to do is I want to break each element down so that we understand how this works, because I really, really believe that when you get this, you will start evaluating your false beliefs. You're going to start identifying them. You're going to start seeing how these patterns occur in your life. And what happens is that when we identify these things, they immediately lose their grip on us. They begin to lose their power over our thought process, over our emotional responses, and over our behavior. Why? Because they're exposed. They're out in the light. They don't know how to now just unconsciously control our lives. They're exposed. We're exposing them. And that's the power in all of this. Now, before we go into structure, I want to, in the book that I just wrote and it came out last month, there is one, let's start with the first false belief that I use, just as an example of what a belief is, right? Because even though I'm identifying it here as a false belief, it's actually a belief. So the belief is this: I don't know if I have what it takes. That's a belief that I was believing in many aspects of my life. I don't know, and for those of you that have the book or have read the book, it's page 21, it's the chapter 1. I don't know if I have what it takes. Now, you listen to that and you're like, man, that's negative. Why would you even believe that? See, here's the thing. When we talk about false beliefs, they don't come out looking like false beliefs. They look like actual regular beliefs. And this is how I'm going to break it down, because I just gave you a false belief. I don't know if I have what it takes, right? That's the false belief. But now, let's look at the 5 elements, the structure of what belief systems look like, and I'm going to invert that false belief so that you can see what it can typically look like when we break this down. And I'm only going to do maybe element number 1 and maybe element number 2, because if I start to try to go through all of them, I'll be on this podcast episode for an hour and a half. It'll be a workshop, and I don't want to do that to you. I want you to be able to take some notes, listen, and mental notes if you're driving or you're working out. But I do want you to grasp where we're headed. I want you to grasp how we're going to break this down with enough tidbits, little by little, so that it starts to make sense. But here, the first element in the structure of what a belief system in us looks like is belief, right? And to use the example that I just said from the book, I used it as a false belief in the book. But here is what it can look like as a regular belief. The false belief was, I don't know if I have what it takes. Now, to invert that into a regular belief, I would say, I need to prove myself to have self-worth. So the false belief is, I don't know if I have what it takes. But the belief that I convince myself that drives my life, my thought process, and my behavior ultimately, because I attach emotion to it, is I have to prove myself. So I become a people pleaser. I become a yes man to prove myself, because that's where I'm getting my worth. Why? Because in reality, I don't know if I have what it takes. Hope you caught that. Because that's how many of us operate. And many of us are in survival mode when it comes to our belief system, because we don't want to dig deep. We don't want to look at the true false belief that is there, because we don't know what to do with it. So we continue to mask it with a regular belief, when in fact we know the truth, that we really don't know if we have what it takes. Just, using that example. Now, if you're an overachiever and you're well educated and you have everything going for you in terms of intellect and competency, more power to you. Congratulations. This may not apply. This is just an example. There are tons of beliefs that we have, tons of false beliefs that are out there that, if I can spend every podcast episode going through each belief and false belief, but that's not the point. The point is for you to do the work and identify within yourself, what is it that behavior-wise, thought process-wise, emotional response-wise is not giving you what you need in life, or it's unhealthy, or it's getting you in trouble, that now you have to sit back and say, I wonder if there's truly a false belief behind all of this. And so what you do is you get a piece of paper, and I have, if you want to do the work on a piece of paper, I do have a design of a piece of paper that I work with about belief systems and false beliefs or core beliefs. and I can send it to you. Just send me an email and I'll be glad to send you that information. But what you want to do is, in this sheet that I can send you, you want to write the false belief, or rather the belief, in a box that I have laid out. And then you want to surround it with core beliefs. Now, when we talk about belief system, remember, the main thing that we want to focus on, which is element number 1, is the belief. And for this example, I am using the example, I need to prove myself to get my self-worth. That's the example we're using. So element number 2 is core beliefs, meaning in each belief that we have, there are core beliefs to support it. So if I am believing I have to prove myself because that's where I get my self-worth, then outside of that belief, I have these core beliefs to support it, which can be things like I need to do things that get me applause. It feels good to get applauded. If I don't get applauded, I failed. I don't like to fail. When I fail, or when I feel like a failure, I feel like I don't have worth or value. It makes me miserable. People don't like me, etc. These core beliefs support my belief of doing more. Does that make sense? These core beliefs, which are connected to insecurity, right? Now, insecurity is just saying that there is no security, that there's a breach, a potential breach, that things could come in and attack. It's called vulnerability. So, based out of those things, I have insecurity, and insecurity leads me to these core beliefs that develop my belief. Even though, in the end of it all, it's an actual false belief. Does that make sense? Because not every belief that we subscribe to is real or true. Now, it's real to us because we live by it, but when you dig deep and do the work, you realize it's not true. So, what I want you to do at the end of this episode is to start to focus on some of the things that drive you, that have affected your negative thinking, emotional response, and behavior, that has potentially sabotaged either relationships, careers, your health, all of these things that you know, and they stress you out, and you know that they have not helped you, but yet you haven't had a strategy. Now, you must connect it to your belief system. There is something in your belief system that has an opening that leads to insecurity, because the security system is not working. So there's insecurity. That means that your security is weak. That means that your security is not solid. It's not foundational, or it's not anchored. That's the word. It's not anchored in something true or someone true. For me, it's Jesus Christ, and that something is the work that he did on the cross. Now, for you, it can be intellect, it can be money, it can be love, it can be all of these different things, but you have to have it based on something that's true. And if it's not true, then it can lead to a breach, which can lead to your belief system. But truly, your belief system has false beliefs within it. So this is this is fascinating. And when you do the work and you begin to look at all of these different things that drive us, you're going to connect it to your belief system, and you're going to realize there are some false beliefs there. So what I want to do, I want to end this episode there. We pretty much touched a little bit of the 2 first elements, and there's 5 of them. So I want you to subscribe if you haven't. And if you have, make sure that notification bell is hit so that you are alerted when the next episode airs, because we're going to discuss the rest of the elements, and we're going to help you not only identify a false belief, but we're going to help you remove it. We're going to teach you how to get rid of this false belief and then ultimately replace it with truth so that you can live a more healthy life. So stay tuned. I'm excited to share this with you because I believe in you, and I believe that the best is yet to come. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast. For more information, visit our website at juangarciaenterprises.com. Our host, Juan Garcia, is available for speaking, coaching, and one-on-one counseling. You can email us at info@juangarciaenterprises.com. Until next time, remember, we only have one mind, so mind yours.